333.2 billion emails that are being sent every single day. So you can imagine the scale in which email is being used to communicate. And it's not just about the scale; it is also about the ROI. Now, email has been proven to give like 42x of the returns, which might be surprising to some of you. But given that email, we'll talk about the cost efficiency of email as a channel later in one of the slides. So $1 gives you $42 in return. That is an average statistic. And SMBs usually use primary email as the primary channel, and 81% of them have used email as the primary channel, and this is also according to HubSpot's statistics. So well and truly, email marketing is not dead. It's not going to die anytime soon as well. And I hope that point is pretty clear. And all of us rely on email marketing to a very large extent, and it would be heartbreaking to hear that email marketing is going to die, but it's definitely not. And sorry, why is email the best channel for customer acquisition? Not what is. So why is email the primary channel for most of the SMBs today? First thing is you own emails, right? So unlike doing ads on LinkedIn and Google and Facebook and some of the other channels, like events, etc., email is a channel that you own completely. You can reach out to as many people as you can, and you can also make sure that you scale it. So that is something that makes email a very unique and a very important customer acquisition channel. The second thing is you can innovate. So because everything is completely under your control, who reads your emails, what content they see, and how frequently you send emails, how do you follow up, etc. The entire playbook is under your control. So what that gives you it gives you the power of innovation, right? So you could innovate, and as you all know, email is not easy because you need to stand out from the crowd. But at the same time, you can innovate and make sure that you are standing out from the crowd. The third thing is you can measure. So every metric with regards to email marketing is measurable. And why is that important? Is because you can make improvements. You can improve only what you can measure, right? So in most cases, we talk about how retargeting ads, how LinkedIn ads, Google ads, Facebook ads. You invest all the money, but you're not very sure of what comes back in return, right? It's very difficult to measure. Whereas email is very, very straightforward. There is a Boolean answer whether it is working or not working, and that gives you a really important thing that a parameter of email marketing that gives you an advantage over the other channels. And the last, but by no means the least important, is that you can scale. So we'll talk about scale in detail in the slides to come. So if you are sending 100 emails a day today, and if it is working, it's giving you 40-50% open rates, it's giving you 2 to 3% reply rates, you're able to book meetings really well. Scaling can happen really quickly and very easily as well. So that is another significant advantage of email marketing. So I would like to present email marketing framework with three different pillars. The first pillar is discovery. So it's not about just sending out emails, just reaching out to tons and tons of people every day. Discovery is one of the key pillars of email marketing. Now, what we mean by discovery. Now, you may have the best product in the world and you might be very innovative in your messaging, but if you're sending it to the wrong person, it doesn't really matter, right? So how do you identify who is the right person to receive your email? So the first thing that comes to mind is ideal customer profile. So how you define your ideal customer profile. We'll talk about this in length because there is a lot of misconception of what exactly is the best way to define ideal customer profile. And the next thing is about intent. So how can we reach out to prospects who who you know are looking out for a solution like yours. That would definitely increase your conversion rates by leaps and bounds. And the third important aspect of discovery is segmentation. Why segmentation is important is you don't want to send the same email to your 100,000 ideal customer profiles. You want to make sure that you are able to personalize, you're able to send different content to different segments of your target audience to make your outreach a lot more effective. And we'll cover this also in detail. The second pillar is the content. So content, and you probably heard of this a lot. Why, uh, how do you do the messaging? What is important? What is important? In part of the subject line. What is important? From the body, and why keeping your email short is important, etc. So there are a bunch of rules in terms of content, and these things keep changing, and I'll talk about that when we review the content aspect of it in more detail. And the second aspect of content is personalization. Now, when you send the same email to 1,000 people versus just a very targeted, personalized email to 10 people, the targeted 10 people would give you much better results than the just the generic 100 or 1,000 people outreach. And this is something that all of us have seen. And if you've done email marketing with the generic messaging versus the personalized messaging, you will clearly know that the personalized messaging gives you much better results. And then, of course, the A/B testing. Copywriting is something that's really I wouldn't say difficult, but you can't get it right in the first attempt. You need multiple iterations. You need to test it out. You need to test all the different variations that you think are good ways to message your content correctly, and then testing it becomes really crucial, because without testing you're not going to know whether it works or not. The third pillar is, of course, your domain and email reputation. So, how can you ensure that your email goes to inbox? So, if you're spending tons of time researching your ideal customer profile, trying to figure out, what is the right messaging to send, and then personalizing the message, and then at the end of all of this hard work, if your email doesn't go to inbox and ends up in spam, that is a huge waste of your time and resources. So ensuring that your email goes to inbox is really key. And of course, there are multiple ways in which you can achieve this, and there's no one specific this is the answer to delivering your email to inbox. It requires a huge process to be followed, and we'll talk about that in detail later as well. And then, of course, your domain warming, and try make sure that before you start sending out 100 emails per day to your target audience, your email service provider and all the firewalls are expecting that kind of volume from you. So you cannot be sending like 0 emails yesterday and suddenly start sending 100 emails from today. So it's very important to warm your inbox, warm your domain, and make sure that you are gradually increasing your volume. And then spam scoring. So your message, how can you ensure that your message is not flagged by firewalls? So you have tools that read your message and provide you scores on what is the likelihood of this email going to inbox versus spam. So using such tools becomes really important to ensure that you are getting to inbox. So what are the key tools you need to ensure this happens? Of course, you need, for the discovery component, you need a really strong database. And from the database point of view, ensuring that you get high quality data, rates that are very, very low. Your bounces can significantly impact your reputation. So having high quality email data is really, really important. And then, of course, you have the sales engagement platforms that will help you create and execute this playbook. So you have a sequence of emails that you've created, and with the first email and then the follow-up, and then a couple of more follow-ups, etc. So creating that kind of a framework through a drip email sequence, a sales engagement platform comes into place, and gives you a significant advantage when it comes to email marketing. And then, of course, your email service provider. So what kind of email service provider you use is also important. Gmail versus Outlook versus Zoho. So all of them have their own pros and cons, but figuring out which one works best for you is also important. So these three are key decisions that you will have to make when you get started with email marketing. So we'll dive a little more deeper into discovery. Now, emails are cheap, as I mentioned. This is a channel that you own, which means you don't have to spend a lot of money in getting your email marketing going, and so emails are cheap. When I say cheap, I mean most, cost effective. Now, what this means is that you could make one of two decisions. A bad marketing decision is, okay, now emails are cheap. I can blast. I can reach out to 10,000 people a day, and that'll give me results. Now, that is not a great marketing decision. A better marketing decision is use the email channel, use the power of the email channel wisely, and make sure that you are able to get the best results out of emails. How you can do this is make sure that you're not reaching out to 10,000 people a day, but you're reaching out to 50 of your top prospects, and ensure that they are able to relate to the story that you are telling them. And the story is about how you customize, how you personalize the email. Talk about the email from the customer's point of view, from the prospect's point of view, and that takes effort. And when it takes effort, it is really important that you choose your 50 top prospects and reach out to them every day. How you can scale this, to get to even higher numbers, we will talk about that. But if you're doing it manually, reaching out to close to 50 prospects a day, is a good target to achieve. And here's a quote. So, a small list that wants exactly what you're offering is better than a bigger list that isn't committed. Now, this is important because we take it for granted. We take it for granted because we think, okay, if I send 10,000 emails a day and I get 10 meetings, that is good for me. But it will hurt you over a period of time, because you will run out of first thing is you wouldn't be able to reach the inboxes of 10,000 people every day if you're sending out 10,000 people 10,000 emails every day. The second is you're going to run out of people to reach out to in a very short time. And also, whoever happens to get your email in inbox, and they could be a really good prospect, and if they are seeing an email that says, hey, this is me and this is all about me, this is what I can do for you, etc., they already lose interest. And the one chance that you had to impress your prospect, you've already lost it. And that is something that you should try and stay away from.
Yeah, so rightly said. I think I have a point to make here, and sorry to interject you in your flow. So essentially, when you use email blast and carpet bomb everybody in your database, what you're doing is essentially burning the market, right? So you will have exhausted your database, and you would have not reached them at the right time with the right kind of messaging. And in doing so, when you reach out to them in future, possibly they're not gonna like your message, because the first time itself they did not have a better experience with you.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely. I
have
mean,
a follow-up question, Surinder. Here, you talked about database, right, and email acquisition. So, what are the things like in your email marketing framework? I think it talks about a gamut of things, but how do we acquire the database? Like, what are the ways for acquiring the database and building a database? So, think about a company going from 0 to 1 stage, right? Pre-PMF sort of, right?
yeah.
They don't really have a picture of their ICP at that time, and they're trying to figure things out as they go. So, what are some of the things that early stage startup marketers should try to get and get access to a database and build that database, and not just buy it from somewhere, but essentially to build their own list?
Sure. I think from a database point of view, from an ideal customer ICP definition point of view,
Mhm.
every company would have a high level idea of, okay, this is my audience, this is the person, these are the kind of companies that I want to go after, and this is the person within the company that I'm looking to go after. The problem is that it could be very wide, or it could be very narrow. So the key is here defining an ideal customer profile that is wide enough, to be to have enough people that you can target, and at the same time narrow enough so that you're not you're not making sure that you're making sure that you're not reaching out to everybody under the umbrella. So I'll talk about the ICP issues in the next slide actually. So figuring out who is your target audience could be a difficulty when you're starting out, but what is important is how you can segment, based on your high level view of what your ICP is. How can you segment into 4 or 5 different categories, and then reach out to them with specific personalized messages, and then over a period of time you will figure out which is your the segment that really works out for you in terms of messaging, in terms of the people who are interested in your product. You will figure it out once you start doing some experimentations. So database solutions are, you can look at platforms that provide databases. LinkedIn, of course, is a great source, so you can get a lot of your target audience information from LinkedIn. There are tools that give you email addresses based on the LinkedIn profile, or you could purchase database solutions like ZoomInfo or an Apollo or an Adapt.io, etc. But the easier way to do it is go from LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a lot more easier for you to manage, and there are very easy tools that will help you identify email addresses as well. And LinkedIn is much better when it comes to narrowing down your ICP and going after a very specific set of people.
Got it. So what you're essentially saying is, even for building the database, you got to segment your ICP and then start building that database and email list.
Correct. Yes. So if you cannot, email marketing cannot really be successful if you're sending it to a wide range of users, right? So it has to be narrowed down. It has to be specific to a set of users. That is when your messaging will be spot on. You can personalize it, and at the same time, you can clearly figure out which part of the segment works out for me. So, but if you're sending
Sure.
it to people, to a wide range of audience, it becomes very difficult to find out what works and what doesn't.
Sure.
Great. Yeah, so moving on, so we'll talk more about ideal customer profile. So, an ideal customer profile can be like this, where I say, okay, I want to reach out to C-level executives in any company that has more than 10 employees. I will target, my product is applicable to all industries, and my product is applicable to all geographies. Now, this is something that may be true, right? Your product can really be applicable to almost everybody, but the thing is, by defining your ICP at such a very high level, it becomes very difficult for you to pick and choose companies that you want to target. So when you pick a set of companies that fall under this category, you'll have millions of contacts, and you won't know whom to target and whom not to target. So it becomes a very difficult process in identifying which segment of users will work and which segment of users will not. So what is important here is to try and define an ICP that is something that you want to target immediately. So this could be your end goal. This could be, okay, when my product becomes really big, my brand becomes very popular, it is applicable to everybody in the world. But right now, when you're starting up, when you're small, who do you want to target, and who do you want to specifically get as your customer? Who do you think is the right definition of your ICP? So it could be a definition like this, where I want to reach out to VP of sales in companies that have more than 200 employees, companies that are B2B SaaS companies, and I'm targeting only companies in the USA. Now, this itself is a pretty wide ICP, but it gives you enough to target. It gives you enough, to figure out whether the product market fit is there. So it is very important, when you define your ICP, you go a level deeper, as deep as possible, and have enough people in this particular segment that you can target. So that's a difference between a good ICP and a bad ICP. A bad ICP will impact you significantly when it comes to your messaging, because you're not able to when you're messaging to all industries and all geographies, it becomes very difficult to put a message that is applicable to a certain set of users. And that's what we'll talk about in segmentation also. We'll talk about segmentation in a moment. But let's talk about intent quickly. So intent is nothing but how can you identify prospects who are already looking for you. Now, most companies which have a good enough brand, they have a lot of inbound coming in. So the intent of inbound users obviously are a lot higher than outbound prospects. But for early stage companies and even for larger companies, mature companies, outbound is still a channel. So identifying prospects, just instead of reaching out to 100 people and hoping they will need a solution like you, if you can identify 10 people who are actually looking for a solution, that could be a huge difference when it comes to your success of your campaigns. Now, how you can do this? There are, of course, products that help you do this, like Bombora, or G2 is a great source. And another category to use is look at your competitors, and you can look at the users of your competitor product. You can get this from multiple different places. There are providers who sell users of Salesforce, or users of Outreach, or users of Gong, etc. You get these lists. They are to a certain level accurate, but a better source to identify this is, what we do is, we go to G2 and we look at all the reviews on G2 for our competitors. So there are like 10 competitors, top competitors. We go through the reviews of all of these competitors, and regardless of whether they're good reviews or bad reviews, we've identified a set of users who are who could be a good fit for our product. So that is an easier way of identifying users that you can immediately go and reach out to. And then, of course, looking at job posts. So if you are a product where for example, you are a security related product, or a compliance product, like providing SOC 2 compliance, etc. And if the company is posting a job about somebody who is in the data security, and talking about more about data security within the company, it means that they are focusing in that area, and gives you the right signal. Okay, this is a signal for us to be going and talking to them, because they are looking to tighten their security, and this could be a good time for us to go and reach out to them. So looking at the job post and seeing what kind of jobs are currently open in the company is a good source to figure out whether they could be looking for your product or not. And then, of course, social media posts. So you always find people talking about, if this is a problem that I'm facing on in a particular area, and posting about that in social media. It's very important for all of us to be looking at LinkedIn, to be looking at hashtags that really matter to you, looking at following people that could be your potential customers, and seeing what they are posting about. So once they start posting about something, a problem that they are facing, or they are commenting on somebody else's post, that is a signal. And that is a very strong signal, because people who are active on LinkedIn, making comments, making posts, etc., they are more open to having discussions with you for solutions. So these are some ways in which you can identify intent signals. And this is really important when it comes to not sending out to too many people, but sending out to really relevant prospects. And let's quickly talk about segmentation. So segmentation is important, as I mentioned, because not only it helps you identify which segment of your ICP can convert the earliest for you, but it is also important to make your email content very effective. So you look at this ICP. So let's say my ICP is B2B SaaS companies, and 200 employees, and I'm looking at companies in the USA, and I'm reaching out to sales leaders within these companies. Now, what are the different ways? Now, let's say this gives you like a million people to go after. But you cannot go after a million people, but you can start segmenting and start going after specific segments. Now, how you can segment this particular ICP by? You can segment by geography first. So you could go, okay, I'm going to reach out to people in California. I'm going to reach out to people in New York. I'm going to reach out to people in Bangalore. So go after specific, geographies, and that will help you narrow down your email. So for example, if you are reaching out to people in Bangalore, you can talk about Bangalore as an opening sentence of your email. That's not a highly personalized email, but it at least gives a certain level of personalization to the person that you are reaching out to, right? um, and then the product category. So what category of product, your product may be applicable to all such products, like all such companies who do sales tech or do security or who do analytics, etc. But if you're reaching out to companies that do analytics, you can message your content according to that. When you're talking about analytics to a company that has built a product on analytics, that gives you a much better chance of conversion than just saying something that is applicable to you, but not applicable to your prospect, right? So you can segment your users by, okay, these are companies that do sales tech, these are companies that are lead generation agencies, these are digital marketing agencies, these are companies that build analytics products. So going after a specific segment of when it comes to product category gives you much better positioning messaging as well. And then the title. So you could be reaching out to when you're reaching out to sales leaders in B2B SaaS companies. You could be reaching out to a CRO, or you could be reaching out to the VP, or you could go down to a manager level, or you could also be reaching out to end users, account executives and SDRs also. Now, depending on who you're reaching out to, so the message that you send to a VP of sales and the message that you send to an account executive or an SDR are completely different, right? And that way you are able to structure and say, okay, you're the VP of sales. Your main problem is about results and revenue. So I'll talk about revenue. And when I go to an SDR, I'm talking about, okay, you need more meetings to be booked, and this is how you can we can help you do it, right? So the messaging changes significantly, even though the offering is the same. The messaging can change, can be significantly different from whether you're targeting VP or you're targeting the SDR, right? So segmentation by title can be a really good thing to add as well. And then there are the size of sales team. So if I'm reaching out to a sales team, a sales leader who is managing 10 people versus a sales leader who's managing 100 people, your messaging can be different there as well. And then you can also figure out whether your product works for sales teams of size 10, or sales teams of size 100, or sales teams of size 50. It'll help you figure out what is the ideal target that you want to go after as well. So these are some examples of how we can size your how we can segment your outreach. And then also the competitors that are using your product. Now when I say competitors using your product, let's say you're reaching out to a company A, and you have a list of companies, their competitors who are already using your product, or who are already evaluating your product. Then it helps where you can talk about, okay, hey, companies B, C, and D who are your competitors are already using us and getting immense value from the product. Why don't you consider? Now, you cannot do this in a generic message, but when you're segmenting it and saying, okay, these are the companies that I'm going after, it makes it easier for you. So these are some of the segmentations that you can do, which will help you narrow down your the audience that you're reaching out to. And more importantly, it helps you create messaging that will resonate with the receiver of the email.
Got it.
Yeah, let's move on to content. So yeah, any questions, Shafiq, on discovery before we move on to content?
Um, so I have a question from the Q&A panel, which is sort of an interesting thing and fits into the current topic of conversation here, which is like, what is the difference between emailing Indian prospect versus US? Any cultural differences one should think of? Um, yeah.
Yeah. I think there is a definitely a huge difference when it comes to Indian prospects versus US prospects. it depends on the your the brand of your product as well, whether you already have some kind of a penetration in US, or you have a penetration in India, matters a lot. So when you're reaching out, what I've typically seen is, being an Indian founder and a product that is built out of India, I've seen that Indian founders and Indian audiences are much more, open to having conversations with us compared to a US market. And the reason for that is because, a couple of reasons. One is, in the US, there is already penetration in that particular segment by a couple of industry leaders. So they usually do not are not looking for an alternate solution, whereas the penetration is not as much as that in the Indian market. And of course, there is cultural difference. So when you are messaging, and when they see that the company is from India, and you're sending it to a US person, there is always some kind of a hesitancy, should I have a conversation with this person or not. This has been reducing in the last few years significantly, but it is still there. It's a hard truth that we all have to accept. So companies employ different strategies to do it. One is, I could use an American name when I send out the emails, and I can use an Indian name when I send it out to Indian users. That way, I'm able to get my email at least read about, and at least get past that first first blocker, by using something that that they are more open to receiving emails from. So that is something that people usually do, and we've seen multiple companies do it, and also be successful. It's the same content. Everything else is same. It's just that they change the name to an American name, and they start receiving more responses. And in India, they use an Indian name, and they get more responses. That is something that we've seen before.
Yeah, and once you have enough capital, you can afford to hire in the US. You don't need to do that.
Yeah, of course, yes. Yeah, this is that's definitely given. Once you have a US team and you have real US people, then it makes no difference. So you can start selling, from the US team itself. But until then, we'll have to try and see what hacks work, and some of these hacks give
Sure.
better results.
Sure. From my experience here, what I've seen is, in general, in people in the US are not generous with their time. So they'll ask you pointed question before even they give you their half an hour, their 15 minutes on a call. And if you're not able to convey to them what's in it for them, like, your product does A, B, and C, and this is how this A, B, and C helps them achieve their goals in a very pointed manner, and ask them to come on a call, see the product demo, or clear their doubts and stuff, they won't do it. They'll ask for collaterals, and they'll just drag you in a conversation that spans weeks or months, and it's a never ending thing with them. Whereas in India, you will find people who are ready to come on a call, talk to you, just because you send them an email, or two emails in a sequence.
Yeah, yeah, true. But I think that gap is still, it's something that is something that you see with Indian audience today as well, where they ask for more information. They ask, when you're sending a
Mm-hmm.
generic message, it doesn't really usually work. They ask for more
Sure.
pointed information. But yeah, so the gap between Indian and US audience is that with the US audience, you probably have to be more pointed, and that's why personalizing and also customizing your message is very important. And the Indian audience is also moving towards that, so it's better we start doing it from now itself, because every day the number of emails that a person receives increases significantly. So until you are able to stand out and give yourself stand out from the crowd, it's very difficult for you to get any response from the audience, Indian or American, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, follow up on this from Anurag and Vijay is about Europe. So we've talked about differences between India and the audience in US, which is not hard to see as such. But what about audience in EU or Europe?
So yeah, I think Europe is a lot more tolerant to emails compared to US. and we've seen European people more open to having conversations comparatively compared to US. But Europe, of course, has restrictions, right? So the GDPR restrictions and others would might create issues for you, unless you have enough things in place. But we've seen European customers. For us, it has worked more on LinkedIn than emails, but we've also done emails to UK. So UK works much better with emails, whereas the rest of the Europe works better on LinkedIn. That's what we've seen.
Got it. Think we can proceed now. I don't see any further question on this, at least.
Great.
Sure. Yeah.
Great. So let's talk about content. So content, the key is make the customer the hero of your story, and this is pretty simple, but it is not. If you take the audience that are there today, if you all can go and take your emails and start reading them, and ask this question, is this email centered around the customer, or the prospect, or is it centered around you? I'm pretty sure that 90-95% of them would be talking about yourself instead of the customer, and that becomes really difficult because you are difficult to convert, because the customer does not see that you have their best interests in mind when you're sending out the email. One, you've sent a very generic message, you've not done any research on them, and two, you're talking about yourself and you don't even know whether the customer has a need for your services. So that itself is a turn off for prospects, and the conversion becomes very, very difficult. So making the customer the center of your emails is something that we'll have to consciously do, and that takes a lot of effort. It does not happen easily. It takes a lot of effort. So when it comes to messaging, so there are certain basic rules. Now we've seen emails that are paragraphs, right? And people don't even they don't even it doesn't matter whether the content is relevant to them, or whether they have the need or not. Just when I see an email that has like 4 or 5 paragraphs, I don't even read it, because I know I don't have the time, right? So your emails should be very, very short and to the point. The rule that you can use is, the email should be readable on your phone without having to scroll, right? So that is typically 3 or 4 sentences, and in 3 or 4 sentences is very much enough to communicate what you want to communicate, and that makes it when you're able to read that email on phone without scrolling, that makes it easier for the prospect as well. So keeping it short is a very basic rule, and something that you should never miss. And then talk about them and not you. That is something that we've stressed earlier as well. So make it more about the customer. Identify what is their problem. Talk about it. Is this a problem that you are looking to solve, or is this something that you would like to be solved, or is this something that I saw you posting about having difficulties in managing your sales team commissions, and is this a good solution that you can is this a solution that you're open to exploring? So making it about them, talking about what they have been doing, and not about yourself, is very important when it comes to your emails. And then make it casual. The more formal you are in the email, it just sounds like, okay, this is a business email and this is a sales email. So try and be as casual as you can. At the same time, don't become too casual, where the prospect does not see you as professional enough, right? So try and strike that balance where you are sounding professional, but at the same time you're not sounding too formal, and not too salesy. And then, of course, personalize. Personalizing your email is a completely different topic. That will take ages for us to cover. It takes another session at least. But personalizing is really important. As of now, there are tools that let you personalize at scale. There are tools like line.ai is one such tool that I can think of. Quick Lines is another. So these are tools that that give you like opening lines that you can use for every email, right? So you provide a LinkedIn URL, or you provide an email address. The tool will tell you, hey, these are 10 different opening lines that you can use, and those 10 different opening lines are from their LinkedIn profile, their company pages, their the job postings, etc. They try to get information from as many areas as possible, and give you with 10 opening lines that you can use, when you're sending the emails. But even if you're doing it manually by yourself, it'll take 5 minutes for you to identify what is the personalized message. We're not talking about personalizing the entire content, but just the opening line. So you need one really solid opening line and the subject line. So can you have something on the subject line and something in the opening line, which is personalized. So why these two are important is because when you send the email, the receiver sees these two things, the subject line. So three things. One is the sender of the email, the subject line, and the opening line. So sender of the email is not something that you can do much about. So, but subject line and the opening line can make or break the email for you. So if somebody is skimming through 100 different emails on their Gmail window, how can you stand out from the crowd? How can you make sure that you are sending an email that talks about something that nobody else talks about? That is what personalization is all about. You can do this manually, or as I mentioned, there are tools that will help you do this. But regardless, personalization of every email is really important in email marketing. And of course, subject line, as I mentioned, stand out from the crowd. Very important to do that, because you don't want to die in the noise. And then another key rule is, you don't want emails asking 5 or 6 different questions. You want just one CTA. You either ask just one question that the user is wanting to respond to, or at least the last sentence that you have in the email should drive just one action, right? And best thing to do when it comes to CTA is make it very very easy for them to do that action. The easiest way to do it is reply with a yes or a no, right? That way it's very easy for the prospect to just because they don't have to spend a lot of time trying to answer your email. All they have to do is say a yes or no answer, and that is a CTA that will work out really well for you. And then all of these cold emails, we need to understand that this is the first time you're talking to them, right? And this is the first time you're talking about you're talking about your product, and how it is a fit for them. So don't ask for a call in the first email. So the first time you're interacting with somebody, if you say, okay, let's can we get on a call, how's your Tuesday look next week, that's a huge turn off for most of the prospects. Instead of asking for a call, check for interest. Let's not try to achieve everything in the first email. Your email should be uh, nurturing, right? So the first email should be something where you are establishing yourself as somebody who has researched about the prospect, and you've identified that there is a pain point that they are looking to solve, and then you're explaining how you are able to solve that pain point, right? So that is more than sufficient for the first email. And then you do follow-ups, and then you ask about, hey, I saw that you visited my website, I saw that you downloaded this ebook. So those are things that you can add to your follow-up emails, and then see, hey, if there is interest, should we get on a call? But never ask for a call in the first email that you are sending. That in most cases does not work. And including social proof. So whatever you say in an email is all by you. I can go and say I have the best product in the world, but somebody else, your customers, or your other users, or people
Mhm.
who are talking about your product, in social media, in G2 crowd, reviewers, that is very important, for your prospect to see. Your prospect should be able to see that, okay, this is a product that others have already used and validated to be good. That is a really important point to send across when they see your email, because otherwise it's just about you bragging about your product, and it doesn't really make sense for the prospect, because everybody does that. They receive 100 emails, all of them say we have the best product, right? So it doesn't really make a difference. But if you include social proof, if you have it, that's a huge game changer. And then very important is A/B testing. Now, when it comes to messaging, as I mentioned before, your content is not going to work the first time, the second time, the third time you iterate. It requires multiple iterations, and all of you who've done email marketing, you are very much aware of this. Now, the key is how can you get to the from the first version to the version that actually works best for you. How quickly you can get to that version, that is what is important. How can you spend minimal time, and before you get to that version that works. So A/B testing is really important. You can A/B test your subject line, you can A/B test your content, your CTA. You can also A/B test the segment, as I mentioned before. So A/B testing and trying to get to a point where okay, this is the content that has given me best results. This is the subject line that's giving me the best open rate. This is the CTA that's giving me the best response rate. So these two components are really important, and that's why the more you do A/B testing, the faster you get to the content that works. Uh, yeah, so these are the basic rules. I'll just show you an example of an email that does not follow these rules. So this is one of the emails that I received. First is I received this email in spam and not in inbox, and the reason is pretty clear, right? And also when you look at these emails, the first thing that comes is this is a long email, right? So this is like a really long email that will take me at least 2-3 minutes to read, and I don't want to spend 2-3 minutes reading such an email. And also, if you look at this email, they are asking me to do all the work, right? So can you tell me which industry you're targeting, which region you're targeting, what is the job designation that you're targeting. A lot of questions are being asked in this email, and then can we talk, right? So these are things that are a turn off for any receiver. If they see a long email, and if the email is asking you to do too much work, naturally you would not want to move forward with the next step, right? So this is an example of some of the don'ts that you want to do. I wouldn't say this is a good email. That's why I said, it's example of a better email. So I'm also learning. So there are so many different content that we use. This is an email content that I used. So a couple of things. One is you see that the email is pretty short. So you can look at, you see that this email can be viewed on a mobile phone pretty easily. And the opening line is a personalized line, right? So this person, what I've identified from their LinkedIn profile is that he's mentioned it as something that distinguishes him is that he's a serial entrepreneur and he does not drink coffee, right? And he said that was rare, and that is an opportunity for me to personalize, because I don't drink coffee as well, and this is something that it took me like 30 seconds to 1 minute to identify this from a quick skim through of their LinkedIn profile. And this is my regular content, the content that I used to send to everybody, but I add this personalized opening line. Now this person, he immediately responded to my email, and we already have a call scheduled for next week. That is how personalized emails work. Now whether our product is applicable to them, whether our product is relevant to them, we will figure it out. But at least we created that interest in them, and they want to explore it. So that is what is important.
Do you not drink coffee?
No, I don't. Yeah, that is what it helped me as well, right? So it's easier for me. By the way, even if you drink coffee, it doesn't hurt for you to use something like this, try to get their attention. But yeah, but really, I don't drink coffee.
Sure.
But if you look at this, I'm trying to figure out whether they have the pain point of acquiring new customers, and I'm also including social proof. I'm looking at, I'm telling them which other companies use our product and get more results out of the product, right? And then I'm asking, does it make sense to explore more? So I'm not asking them for a call, I'm not asking for stuff. And at the same time, I'm trying to tell them that okay, the worst case, this is what happens. You spend 30 minutes, and we try to figure out how each of us are approaching. We could learn from each other, right? So this way, we are trying to reduce that friction in getting a response to this email. It makes them a lot more comfortable and more open to having a conversation with me. So this is an example of a better email. I have a couple of PDF documents that lists the entire set of emails that we do. So that is something that I have been sharing with audiences on LinkedIn and others who want to go through how are good emails written, what emails are working, what emails are not working. So if any of you are interested, I could share that with all of you as well. Yeah, so that is all about content. So let's quickly cover reputation, and then we'll open it up to questions. So reputation. So this is so true, right? A bad email reputation is like a hangover, very difficult to get rid of, and it makes everything else hurt. Now, this is so true. If you've gone through issues with email reputation, you will figure you will be able to relate to this quote, very much, because we've all gone through this, right? Because you've done all the hard work, you've put together everything, and once your reputation goes down and your emails start going to spam, everything breaks. The deliverability breaks, everything else breaks. So even if you're reaching out to 100 people and only 10 people receive your email, you're losing 90% of your business right there. So it's a huge problem, and it's very important that we keep email reputation addressed, when you're sending out emails. So what are the basic
Yeah.
rules on reputation, right? First and foremost, don't use your main domain. When you're using your main domain, unless it is a very targeted set of emails, like you're sending like to 5 or 6 people in a day, you're making it very personalized, and it is something that you're writing it yourself. uh, don't use your main domain. If you're using to send emails to anything more than 20 people in a day, use an alternate domain. Purchase a different domain, use that to do all of your email marketing, and never use your main domain. Your main domain is cannot be tampered with, and that will cause impact to your business. So there is a key rule that we'll all have to follow. And then email domain and inboxes warming. So warming your inboxes means that so you've created a domain. Now, until today you've not sent any email, and from today you start sending 100 emails. It is guaranteed that you'll go to inbox. Sorry, guaranteed that you'll go to spam, and it is also guaranteed that your inbox will be blocked. Somebody like G Suit will definitely come and take action on your inbox. So it's very important that you gradually warm up your domain. Like start with 5 emails a day, 10 emails a day, 20 emails a day. Typically, it takes around 2 weeks to warm your domain and inbox, and there are tools, products that do the warming for you. Like there are free solutions, there are paid solutions, but there are multiple solutions. But it's very important that you warm your domain and inboxes for 2 weeks before you start sending out your emails. Now, after 2 weeks, where you can measure, the deliverability of your emails. Typically, the warming services, they provide a score on, how many emails are landing in spam and how many are landing in inbox. So once you're at close to 100% delivery to inbox, you can start sending out your outbound emails as well. But once you start, one of the mistakes that most of us do is, once you start sending your outbound emails, you stop the warming, and that could cause a huge impact, because once you start sending your inboxes, now you're sending it to real people, and real people would go and they would go mark you as spam. They will unsubscribe. You will get bounces. A lot of problems that happen when you start sending out to real people. And at that point of time, if your inbox is not being warmed, you have your reputation starts going down. So all the reputation that you built over the 2 weeks of warming will start going down once if you stop warming it and then start sending your outbound emails. So the key here is, keep your warming running for as long as you are doing the outbound email from a specific email address. never stop doing the warming, right? So that is another key rule.
Are
And
there any tools to assist in warming up a new IP?
Oh yes, there are multiple free solutions. There are free solutions, paid solutions. GMAS provides a free solution, so you can connect your, but it works for Gmail inboxes only. So you can connect your Gmail inbox and start the warming, right? And then there are multiple other solutions like Warm Up Inbox is one, Inboxy is another solution, Lemwarm is another solution. So all of these tools will help you warm your domain. Some of them are paid, some of them are free, but all of them work similarly. I think GMAS is a free solution, and we use GMAS to do the warming of our IP and domain, and it has worked well so far.
Sure.
And then, of course, always include an unsubscribe link. This is important because if you miss the unsubscribe link, and if the user does not like your email, the only option you're giving them is to mark you as spam. And if more users mark you as spam, you start ending up in more in spam, right? So always include an unsubscribe link. That is very very important. And most of the email tools, the sales engagement platforms, they let you configure this unsubscribe link and make sure it is automatically included in every email that you send. But if you send emails without unsubscribe link, that's going to impact your reputation significantly. Um, and then your yeah, the email content is also important, right? So your delivery scoring, what we talked about earlier. So if you can provide your content, there are tools that calculate the score of your email. What is the likelihood of you going to the, just purely based on the content, what is the likelihood of you going to inbox versus spam. So for example, if you're using more words like free, offer, more marketing terms, more salesy terms, these tools, the firewalls, they detect you as more spam than a B2B email, and they send you to spam. So tools that help you identify this, you could use to make sure that your content is structured to go to inbox and not to spam. And key thing is how can you make sure that your delivery and open rates, you keep an eye on it every day, because your domain reputation could go down significantly in a matter of 2 or 3 days. So it's very important that you take action as soon as something wrong happens. As soon as you see that for some reason your open rates have gone down significantly, or if your warming solution is showing that your delivery is much lower than what it was before, that is a red flag. And first thing to do is stop sending emails and try to identify what is going wrong. Is it because you're facing too much of bounces, or is it because your content is not great, or are people marking you as spam? So those are things that you'll have to look at and make sure that you are addressing that immediately, before continuing, before resuming sending the emails. So
So
looking at
I
it
have a
every.
question here. So does users clicking on unsubscribe link more often than not affect my reputation as a domain?
Not really. Unsubscribe links don't really affect your reputation, but people marking you as spam definitely affects. Unsubscribe is more, like, okay, I'm not your ideal person, so do not send me
Hmm.
emails. That's perfectly fine. But people marking you as spam, that is what is going to impact you.
Sure.
And then there is configuration, right? So configuration is really important before you start sending emails. So there are these configurations that you'll have to do for your email domain, like DKIM, DMARC, SPF. Now all of these configurations, are they need to be done before you start sending out any email from your inbox. Now there are multiple articles that talk about how to do this. A Gmail IP is done differently, an Outlook IP is done differently. So everybody has their own way of doing it, but it's very very straightforward, and you can get it done. Your website admin can get it done in less than 30 minutes. All it takes is 30 minutes to configure your DKIM, SPF, DMARC. And if you've not configured DKIM, DMARC, and SPF, your emails are not going to go to spam, sorry, not going to go to inbox, and that's going to be a huge impact on your reputation as well. The receivers, who even the receivers who receive on your inbox will see messages on the top of the email saying it is not an email that you can trust, right? And open it at your own risk. So that is the kind of messaging that they will see if you don't have these settings configured. These are really important. Now, in addition to that, some of the other configurations that you will have to do is daily email limits. So you don't want to exceed certain number of emails. You don't want to suddenly start sending 200 emails a day. Ideal is to maintain it, at 100 emails per inbox. Don't exceed that 100 emails per inbox, including your new emails, follow-ups, everything. So, and 100 emails is pretty good number, right? And then intervals between emails. So if there are 100 emails to be sent, and if all of these 100 emails are being sent in 5 minutes, that's a red flag, right? So because that is not what a human would do. That is something that an automation will do. So that will put a red flag on your IP and domain. So having an interval, a defined interval, saying okay, between consecutive emails, have at least 2 minutes or a 3 minutes interval. That way, you spread out your email. So if you have to send 100 emails, it goes across 5-6 hours. That way, it's easier. Your domain does not get impacted, and it's easier for you to manage as well. And then custom URLs for tracking. So what do you mean by custom URLs for tracking? So every email marketing tool, sales engagement platform that you use to track email opens and clicks, etc., an URL will be used in the email. It will be embedded in the email. Now that URL is typically a URL of the email marketing tool provider. So if you're using Mailchimp, it could include a Mailchimp URL in the tracking. Now what happens is everybody else is also using that same URL, right? And that URL will go in all the emails that you are sending. Now, if the reputation of that URL is going down, then your email also starts going to spam. Now, the way in which you can solve this is use custom URLs for tracking. So if you're using your own domain, so if you're using s11s.co for the tracking URL, then you are in complete control of that particular domain. So the email going to inbox or going to spam is completely under your control. So that is what custom URLs is. So these three are configurations that you might want to have when you are sending emails, apart from the DMARC, SPF, and DKIM. And the goal is to mimic human behavior, right? So if you're sending too many emails too quickly, or if you're doing something that is humanly not possible, that is what gets caught by firewall. So it's really important that you mimic human behavior to as much as possible. And also, just because, as I mentioned earlier, just because emails are free and you can send as many as you can, don't send too many emails. Limit it. What we would recommend based on our research before, based on what we've seen so far, 100 emails per day per inbox gives you really optimal results, and I think that is a good enough volume for all of us to target as well. So that is the limit that you might want to maintain. Yeah, I think that is the end of what I wanted to present. So thank you all so much for patiently listening to what I had to say. I hope I added some value to all of you. I'm open to any questions that we have.
Yeah, so there are questions in the panel itself that I can read out to you and you can answer. Like the question from Vijay is, what about personalization strategy to do it at scale? So he's basically referring to your email wherein you said that you don't drink coffee to one person, which is probably done by research, and you went ahead and looked at their social profile, and that's how you got to know. Then you wrote it in the email, right? So simple question around like how to do that, do the same thing at scale.
Yeah, that's a great question. So first we have to define scale, right? So again, you don't want to be sending 10,000 emails a day, and when you're sending 10,000 emails a day, you're obviously not going to achieve what you want to achieve. So first, it is important to define what our goals are. Do I want to get 5 meetings a day? and define that as the goal. I want to get 5 meetings a day. It does not matter whether I reach out to 10,000 people or if I reach out to 5 people only, but my goal is to get 5 meetings a day. Now, personalization is important because even if you send to 10 people, you usually get really good results. You get much better open rates. You get much better response rates. So I would recommend reaching out to just 10 people or 20 people in a day. Personalize it to as much as you can, and you will start seeing much better results. Whether you can do it at scale. So when you say at scale, I would think it is like 100 emails a day. Can I do 100 personalized emails a day? No, you can do it. As I mentioned, there are tools available like line.ai, lyne.ai is a tool. Quicklines.io is a tool that will give you personalized opening lines for the prospects that you are reaching out to. So using those, so you can give a list of 100 people, and the tool will give you, okay, these are opening lines that you can use for these 100 people. Now you can then upload it into your sales engagement platform and say, hey, use this as the opening line, right? And then you can send 100 emails, and all of them will include the opening lines. Now what we have to understand is this is still an evolving space. Nobody has got it right yet. It is still evolving, and it is not the same as another human writing. It is not the same as you writing it, right? So it can backfire at times. It could be wrong. But if you're doing some testing for your target audience, is it giving me like out of 100 personalized lines? If 80 of them are good, then I can just blindly go and do it. But these are tools that can help you only to a certain level. But what I would recommend is a personalize, like how a human would do, and send only 20-30 emails a day, but focus on how can I get much better results from these 20-30 people instead of trying to send to 500,000 people a day.
Got it. Other question I see is on the A/B testing bit. I think this one is more on determining the sample size. So, what is the number of emails to do A/B testing? I don't think just 100 list will give the right insights. So, essentially, to determine the sample size for doing A/B testing, so something like an even Miller, there is baseline conversion rate, and then there is minimum detectable effect that you want to determine with respect to A/B testing. So you could use that, and I have personally used it. If you have any other thoughts that you want to share on this.
I think 100 is a really good number. If I send 50 emails to variation A, 50 emails to variation B, and I see that variation A gives me 20% open rate, variation B gives me 40% open rates, that's a really good result for me. And maybe you don't use the result from just one day. You could probably use it for 2-3 days and see whether the results are same across 2-3 days. I think 100 emails is a pretty good number, and if you send it like 2-3 days, you get like a bigger set, right? You have like 300 emails that you can then use to figure out which version works best. But it's about how can you do A/B testing, uh, uh, you know uh, more variations, right? So instead of doing just A versus B, can you do A versus B versus C versus D versus E? And then you send like 100 emails every day for a week or for 2 weeks. You have like a sample set of 1,000 emails, 200 emails each for every variation, and then you have 200 emails, and then which variation works best. 200 emails is a really good sample size, so that is a good way to do it. Have more variants.
Got it. Makes sense. I have a question from Anurag in the chat. And I also had the same question when you were talking about custom URL. So I particularly did not understand it well. So if you could just give a example to both of us, me and Anurag here, uh, just around using custom URLs in the last, I think it was the second last slide in your presentation here.
Sure. No, let's say you are sending emails from razorpay.com, right? So let's say you're using razorpay.com's URL, or the email address to send the email. Let's say you're using a tool like SalesGear, or you're using a tool like Outreach. Now, what happens is when you're creating your sequence, we will add a pixel for tracking your opens and clicks. Now that pixel is nothing but it's an image, right? So, and it needs to be hosted somewhere. So that URL that will be embedded in the email will be something like salesgear.io/tracking pixel or something, right? Now,
Sure.
what happens is the URL says salesgear.io. So when firewall sees salesgear.io, then it looks at the domain reputation of salesgear.io. It does not look at the reputation of razorpay.com. Salesgear.io reputation also plays a part. So if salesgear.io reputation is low, then your email has, there are chances that your emails could go to spam. But instead of that, you can configure to say, okay, these tracking pixels also, they also should use razorpay.com URL, right? That way nobody else is using it, you have full control over it, and if your reputation is good, you get to go to the inbox. Whereas salesgear.io domain could be being used by multiple other users. So somebody else who is gaming the system, who is sending like spam
Hmm.
content, could affect you and end up in spam. So that's how custom URL helps.
Sure, sure. Got it. I have a question in the chat here from Shashank Agrawal. Any frameworks available that cover how to plan a calendar, frequency of drip emails being sent to prospects who are signing up, or your cold list and other stuff? So, and like from a scalability standpoint.
Sure. So we do two things actually. So two things have worked out really well for us. One is you do a multi-channel outreach, and a multi-channel outreach is where you're not just relying on emails. You're trying to do a combination of email plus LinkedIn plus phone call. So I could do something like, okay, send an email on day one, and then send a follow-up email on day three, and then send a LinkedIn connection request on day four, and then send a LinkedIn message on day five or day six. Then send a couple more emails, then again send a couple LinkedIn messages, then send a couple more emails, and then finally make a phone call. Right. So this is like 8 or 10 steps in the playbook. But the differentiation here is that you're reaching out to this person across different channels, and even if email does not work, LinkedIn could work, and if LinkedIn does not work, email could work, and if both doesn't work, at the last step you're making a phone call. And in most cases, when you're making this phone call, you already have information about how much they've engaged with your content. Have they seen your email? Have they clicked on your content? Have they accepted your LinkedIn connection? So they already know who you are, and they know what you're going to be talking about. So the call is no longer a cold call, but it becomes a warm call, and the chances of conversion becomes a lot higher. So that is a multi-channel approach that we have been doing. And then there is the pure email marketing approach, which we do for scale. We add 50 emails every day, which usually we do. What we do is we send it over a period of 14 to 16 days, and we include at least 7 to 8 touch points. So 7 to 8 touch points across two weeks is a good volume to attract. And usually you start receiving responses from the fifth or the sixth touch. The first, second, third, they are usually on the fence. They are still thinking, but your fifth, sixth, seventh emails, they are the ones that give you the best responses. And also there are some ways in which you can structure your fifth, sixth, seventh emails. That way you get better results. One of our breakup email, the last email that we send is a breakup email that says, okay, this is my last email, right? And why do you think this is not of interest to you? And we ask them 5 different reasons, and all they have to do is send a number back. So that kind of email works really well when you're sending out breakup emails. So how you structure your fifth, sixth, seventh emails becomes really important. So yeah, so typically 7 to 8 emails across 14 to 16 days works well for us.
Understood. An interesting follow up from Shashank himself in the audience. How can we differentiate email marketing from SDRs, which are more personalized than with the email marketing done by marketers? And any frameworks on both in terms of distribution and frequency? I think distribution frequency you have covered, but differentiating between email marketing done by SDRs and email marketing done by marketers.
Yeah, I think the goal is what is different, right? So, what is the goal of the email marketing done by marketers? It is not about getting somebody to come and talk to us. You're not selling a solution. You're just creating that awareness. Hey, this is what we do, right? And that sticks in the back of their mind. So that is what is the objective of marketers. And that's why usually when you see email, marketing emails, they are sent in masses, 10,000, 20,000 emails a day. They use tools like Mailchimp, etc. The goal for them is not about reaching all the 10,000 people. It's just about creating as much awareness as possible. Whereas the emails that are being sent from SDRs, the goal is very straightforward. The goal is, how do I bring the prospect to a meeting, which needs a much better approach, a much better one-on-one approach that does a lot of research on the prospect, ensures that you're talking about the prospect more than talking about yourself. Whereas the marketing emails that you send, it's all about what you provide as a platform, what you provide as a solution. So that's the difference between these two. And SDRs, for SDRs, you typically use sales engagement platforms where it is easier for you to go after one-on-one targets. That's why SDRs would use sales engagement platforms, whereas the marketing team would use email marketing solutions.
Got it. I hope that answers your question, Shashank. I'll quickly move to the list of questions that people filled up, asked during filling up the form for registering for the event. I think most of these questions are already answered, but there is one question by Arnish, which is around best practices to use lead scoring and set up email nurture sequences at various stages in the lead funnel. So kind of an incomplete question. So basically, I think what Anish is asking is to know any tips or best practices that work in
Yeah.
terms of lead scoring and setting up email sequences.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because when you're sending emails to 50 people, you need to know the difference between the prospect who is showing much more interest than the prospect who's not even opened your email. So somebody who has opened your email multiple times, whether they've forwarded the email to others in the team and they are opening it. So let's say I sent an email to 50 people, and five of them have opened my email more than 10 times, right? And the remaining 45 have either opened it once or they've not even opened it. Now it gives me an indication that these five people are worth targeting even more personally than the remaining 45 people, right? So a framework that says, okay, if somebody has opened my email more than five times, then give them a high priority score, or give them a score that will make me target them more specifically. That is important. And I think what we need to be doing as email marketers is look at your daily metrics, look at who is opening your email, and automate that as much as possible. So you can automate something like, okay, if somebody has opened my email more than five times, stop this particular sequence that I'm sending and enroll them to a second sequence, which is more targeted, which is more personalized, and also includes a phone call. So that way you've identified that somebody has good interest. Now you're doing more targeted approaches to get them to convert. So that is really important to do, and not just wait for not just treat everybody the same. So because everybody is not going to be the same. Out of the 100 people that you send, five people are going to do things differently, more engage with you, and it's important to identify those and then target them much more personally.
Got it. I think, yeah, most of the questions that, as I said, right, people asked, I think all of them, the live questions are answered already. And most of the questions that they asked in the form that they filled for registering for the event are covered. I think we just let me have a final look at Q&A panel and the chat, and then we can begin. What is the best way to define and track a sales qualified lead? It is usually very poorly defined and they hardly fill it up. So I think this is a problem that marketers face working with a sales team, wherein the qualifying criteria is probably not agreed upon. And even if it is agreed upon, the salespeople do not really fill the details that are required to make it, qualify a lead as a SQL.
Yeah, I think that's a never-ending debate, right? So what qualifies as an SQL? Some people, I got you the meeting. Now it's an SQL. For some people, the opportunity needs to be qualified before you can convert it to an SQL. So that is not something that I have a lot of experience in. So I don't really want to comment on that. But what I see is important is to know that is to address it at the targeting, the discovery section itself. You don't want to get too many meetings scheduled, but none of those meetings are qualified, right? So you will definitely get meetings if you send to 10,000 people. You will get them schedule the meetings, and they'll come and think, okay, I thought you were this, but you're not this, right? So those kind of things will happen. So it's very important that you clearly target your right set of audience through the discovery process. Also message your email very well, so that people clearly know what your solution is. So that way you won't get much of these issues.
Got it. I think that's it from our side. Surender, I just like to ask you one final question. How
Sure.
was the experience like talking to our
Yes.
audience here in S11s?
Oh, I think it was great. I'm glad that I was able to do this, and first time I've been on Zadil as well. That the tool has been pretty handy also. But I love the S11s community. I think it's a completely. Uh, I'm on multiple other communities, but S11s is different because it is very organic, and I see that it's very not very tight. It is informal, but at the same time adding so much value. I think it's really awesome. So yeah, great job, Shafiq, Rohit, Siddharth, and others on the S11s team. I really love being on this platform, and I also love talking to all of you here today. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for the kind words. It is our time for us to say thank you for you to take the time for doing this session with us. I think this was one of those sessions wherein we can actually call it a deep dive in its true sense. We actually went into email marketing as a subject and talked about basics, fundamentals, and then strategies and frameworks to scale it up. I don't know about others, but I learned a few things that I did not know about email marketing today, and we covered a lot of ground in this session. So thank you for being a guest speaker on this session. And thank you for taking the time out to speak to our audience. The recording of this session will be available in Zadal, as well as will upload it on YouTube. And yeah, that's it from our side, folks. Thank you for joining in on a Saturday evening, and thank you, Surender, for doing the session with us.
Yeah, great, great. And if all of you had just one takeaway from this session, that is really great news. But I know email marketing is really wide, and you cannot cover everything in a 1.5 hour session. So if any of you have any questions, or any deeper thoughts you need from me, please feel free to ping me on Slack. I'm available, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, thank you so much, Shafiq. Great talking to all of you.
Thank you. Bye. We can exit the stage now.
All right, see you
All right.
guys.
Thank you. Bye.